In 2006, 7 private bankers walked out of Citibank Singapore and joined their competitor UBS, excited about the new jobs ahead of them. 18 months later, all 7 of them were facing criminal charges. Not 2, not 3, all 7, with a whopping 1,223 charges between them. Now, this isn't a story about non-competition clauses, where an unhappy boss brings up the employment contract to punish you for leaving. It's actually a whole lot more serious than that. So, stay with me to the end, because what these 7 bankers did could affect what your company could do to you when you leave. In the mid-2000s, wealth management was a booming business to be in, and teams from rival banks were being actively poached left, right, and center. Because, well, it's easier to snatch a team with existing clients than to go out and look for new clients. Now, our protagonist, Mr. J, runs such a team in Citibank, and is really good at his job. So good that their competitor UBS comes a-calling with an offer he could not refuse. And when he accepts the offer, he doesn't go alone. He allegedly brings his entire team of 6 people along, creating a huge vacuum in his company. 7 people, one industry-shaking move, what we headhunters call a big lift and shift. On paper, that happens all the time in private banking. And they all lived happily ever after. Not. Because they didn't just bring along their existing accounts, they apparently accessed the company's computer systems and copied megabytes of confidential client data for their own personal use after leaving the company. Now, when Citibank first heard about the team move, they went livid. Such team moves were detrimental to their bottom line, and they didn't wait long to react. By the end of 2006, the bank files a civil lawsuit against the 6 of the 7 named, to the tune of roughly $50 million of lost revenues. The case was so compelling that the ex-staff decided to settle out of court for an unspecified amount, which they had to pay out of their own pockets. Even though it was painful, well, at least the nightmare was over. Or so they thought. Now, here's the twist nobody saw coming. While the civil suit was running, Citibank was already building a second case, one nobody outside the bank knew about. The bank had gone to the authorities, the police, and the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and filed a police report. Because what the Citibank 7 had taken wasn't just goodwill and phone numbers, it was confidential data pulled from the company's own protected banking systems. Client files, account information, sensitive data, the kind of material that is deemed protected and highly confidential in the banking industry. In Singapore, that single fact alone changes everything. Under the Computer Misuse Act, accessing or copying data from a protected computer, and well, a bank's financial system absolutely qualifies, isn't a civil dispute about poaching talent anymore. It's a serious criminal offense, punishable by a fine of up to $100,000 and up to 20 years in prison per charge. Step the Banking Act's secrecy provisions on top of that, and you've got a nuclear meltdown level event on your hands. So, in January 2008, almost a year after the civil case had closed without a sound, all 7 were criminally charged together. 1,223 charges in total. Given the weight of the evidence and the earlier settlement with Citibank, the Citibank 7 didn't stand a chance, and the penalties the judge dispensed were mind-numbing. Mr. J, the supposed team leader, was reportedly fined $160,000, and his most junior assistant pleaded guilty to 6 charges, and she was fined a whopping $40,000. The rest were also found guilty and fined between $70,000 and $173,000. In total, almost $750,000 in fines were paid. Besides the monetary fallout, the damage to their reputation was incalculable, and I wonder how employable they'd be within the banking industry after that. So, what can we learn from this episode? Here are 3 lessons worth carrying with you, especially if you're a senior PMET sitting on client relationships, proprietary knowledge, or anything that your employer would call confidential. Lesson 1. Don't steal data, even if the staff feels harmless. Training manuals, customer files, SOP documents, they can all be classified as proprietary information or trade secrets, and the law doesn't care whether you thought they weren't. I once had a client who printed 350 pages of his company's SOP the week before he resigned, but didn't get away because all unusual printing activity was flagged by the IT department and he was caught. Lesson 2. I've talked about non-compete clauses in my other episodes and how notoriously hard they are to enforce in court. But don't mistake that for safety. A determined employer doesn't need a strong non-compete to make your life miserable. Citibank could have left this as a civil suit over money, but they chose to report it to the police instead. And it became a useful cautionary tale to ensure that in future, all departing employees do not misbehave. Lesson 3. Everyone does it. Has never been a legal defense, and it never will be. If you want to bring client relationships to a new employer, do it with your eyes open. Serve proper notice, don't download anything on your way out, and don't solicit clients before you've actually left. Email trails are easily traced. A clean exit protects you and leaves no room for petty retributions from an unhappy boss, especially when you are joining a rival company. The Citibank 7 personally paid more than $750 million in fines and lived under the threat of decades in prison for how they left the job. Never underestimate the lengths a company or a boss would go through to defend what they feel is protected. So be wise and make a clean exit. In the meantime, keep calm and carry on.